Welcome back. What is this, MMA calculator?
I think it did Attic MMA.
Oh, MMA Attic. Get in our attic. Welcome back. This is our third and final prediction videos for this week. If you have not yet seen the others, please go check out the 13 opportunities that we have found between PFL Week 5 and Bellator Dublin. Starting off, UFC Fight Night, Whittaker versus Aliskerov. Near the bottom of the card, we have a light heavyweight bout between the 8-0 Magomed Gadzhiyazilov versus Brenson Ribeiro at 15-6. Brenson will be coming in 3 years younger and with a 6.5-inch reach advantage. Magomed will be making his promotional debut, coming straight off a decision win on the Contender Series. Ribeiro is also a Contender Series alum, but has since suffered his first loss in the UFC. Both of these guys have earned at least half of their professional wins by KO, TKO, and we can't find a single one outside of the first round. I tell you, don't blink, but I'm afraid it'll be Lewis versus Ngannou all over again. The bookmakers have Magomed as a reasonable favorite, and we don't see any reason to dispute that. But if they are both swinging for the early KO, then anything can happen. The model sees this as a pick'em and likes Ribeiro just a little more. We begrudgingly laid a bet on this one. The next fight on the card is a bantamweight showdown between Muin Gafurov versus Kyung Ho Kang. Kang is more than 8 years older than Gafurov at 36 and has been in the UFC for longer than Gafurov has been a pro. Gafurov got a late replacement call in mid-2023, which resulted in a loss to John Castaneda. Kang would also lose his most recent bout to Castaneda only 5 months later. Kang has 12 career finishes by submission, which, in recent years, are nearly evenly split up by decision wins. These wins are then broken up every few fights by a single decision loss. Gafurov boasts 10 wins by KO, TKO, and 7 by submission, but it has been 9 years since he slated a win by sub. Even though the books are showing Kang as a small underdog, the model has found a bit of value in him. This is a bet that we are happy to make on a fighter that we love to watch. Kicking off the main card, we have Johnny Walker versus Volkan Ozdemir. These men have very similar records and stories to match. They both came up looking incredible, only to lose one fight that would send them into a spiral. Johnny Walker seems to have recovered, winning 3 of his last 5 with 1 no contest, while Ozdemir has been trading wins and losses and will attempt to win 2 in a row for the first time since 2019. We know that Ozdemir has massive power, but we haven't seen that in years. Johnny is susceptible to KOs, as we have seen, but he is also a wild man that can be very hard to hit. Neither of these men are well known for their cardio, so who knows what could happen if the fight goes long. The odds makers see this as a close fight, and so does our model. Both of us are showing Walker with a slight edge, which gives us enough to place a wager. On to our co-main event at heavyweight. We have Sergey Pavlovich facing off against Alexander Volkov. 2 Russians out of Moscow who we'd be interested to find out if they've ever trained together. Volkov, the slightly older man, has more than double the fights of Pavlovich. With 47 professional bouts under his belt, he has been competing in the UFC since 2016. Pavlovich was introduced to the UFC in 2018, but his 8 promotional fights are barely more than half of Volkov's 15. Win or lose, Pavlovich has never made it out of the first round in the UFC, with 6 KO TKO wins bookended by losses to Overeem and Aspinall, all without ever seeing the stool. Volkov, meanwhile, has seen wins and losses every way imaginable, from his recent Ezekiel choke win over Tai Tuivasa to his last second KO loss to Derek Lewis in 2018. If Volkov is able to keep his distance early and survive the first round, we may get to see if Pavlovich has a gas tank. He could also get another early finish himself. The bookies and our model are more than a little confident that Pavlovich is able to get this done. As much as I'd like to see how Sergey does in the later rounds, we are hoping for an early finish in our favor. Rounding out this card, we have Ikram Aliskerov pushing his weight cut back to take a late notice fight against Robert Whittaker. Ikram, coming in at 15-1, hasn't lost since 2019 in a fight against Whittaker's original opponent, Hamzat Chimaev. Whittaker, with a record of 25-7, has twice as many professional fights as Aliskerov, with 21 of those being in the UFC, where Ikram has no experience in major promotions outside of his 2 UFC bouts last year. Roberts' recent fights have almost all gone to decision, with him not finishing a fight in the last 7 years. Ikram, in the same time period, has only seen a single decision, with 6 KO, TKOs, and 4 submissions. That certainly doesn't account for the difference in opponents, as Whittaker was fighting the very best in the UFC, while Aliskerov spent much of that time on the regional scene. This will be an exciting test for Aliskerov, even though it's probably too soon for him to be fighting at the top of the division. The book odds reflect this sentiment, showing Whittaker as a small favorite. Our model, on the other hand, believes that Aliskerov has a fair chance here, so we placed our final wager of the weekend on Ikram for the upset. Now that we've covered all our bets for this card, let's have a look at the totals. UFC Saudi Arabia offered us 5 opportunities to bet, with 2 of them on favorites and the other 3 on underdogs. Our risk for this card came in at 6.35 units, potentially returning 13.51, which would net us a 7.16 unit profit. That's all we have for you on this card. If you haven't already, go check out our PFL and Bellator picks for this week, linked in the description below. The Bellator card highlights a modification to our betting strategy that was not seen here. Thanks, as always, for watching. Best of luck to you on any bets you are making this weekend.